We're continuing, of course. We at ABSL are proud on our ongoing project, which is the annual country report that we are publishing. Well, the first one was published in 2020, and the second one is coming up. And this is the only document, I must say, that gives an objective insight and overview of the state of the business service sector in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the copies that are distributed online and in a printed format all around the world have reached enormous interest in the business community. What makes us even more proud are the feedbacks that we are actually getting constantly on the report and opportunities that the report opened to our country, which means investors and requests for getting more information about the BPO industry in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Project manager of our country report, as well as ABSL Bosnia and Herzegovina's Vice President for International Relations, is Mr. Tarik Altumbabić. And Tarik Altumbabić will address us today about the current state of the BSS sector in our country, and of course, introduce you to this year's edition of the annual country report. I have a small remark for all of you. During the speech of Mr. Altumbabić, on the screens on our sites, you'll have a QR code and the unique opportunity to download the 2021 edition of our annual country report. Now, please, a huge applause for Mr. Tarik Altumbabić.
Thank you, Adi. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to see you all here. And I'll be speaking over the next 10-15 minutes about the report, as well as the state of the business services sector. So Adnan had already made a very good keynote about the business services industry, about its values and the continuum in thriving in the industry. I would say that about 25 years ago, this digital transformation journey actually started. So we are already experiencing the digital transformation for the fourth industrial revolution for already 25 years. During this time, many countries have had an opportunity to excel in that, to accept business services as an industry and actually really make a good profit out of that. So Adnan made a very good speech about what India did. I'll be focusing on what is happening in the European Union zone. So it is true that for the past 11 years, the business services industry exists in the Czech Republic, Poland, as well as Visegrad Group countries plus Bulgaria, and the size of the industry overall is now exceeding 750,000 employees. To give you an idea about the value of the industrial sector, we'll take Czech Republic as an example. So business services there have about 200,000 employees already, and the impact to the GDP is 5% overall, which is more than 14 billion euros in revenue. That's a serious amount of money. And it's going to continue to grow. When the industry started there, and this is to reflect what's been also happening in Bosnia, because the industrial pattern is the same. So what the industry is experiencing here is no different compared to what's been happening in the other countries. So 11 years ago or 12 years ago, if you wanted to start up a business services sector or a business services industry or a center, it was enough to have qualified people speaking one of the foreign languages, to have a good office space and basically being able to accommodate the online business. In terms of providing the value-add services to our customers, equally it was enough to be only one page ahead of the customer in the main guideline and you already had a business case. These things are changing very, very much. Equally, in terms of collocation of work, everybody had to build a trust and say why Prague is a location to go to. Now, why Sarajevo or Mostar or Tuzla or Zenica are locations to go to. So a lot of effort was really put in terms of the marketing, in terms of the infrastructure and building up the foundations, the groundstones for this industry to thrive. Czech Republic did it, Poland did it, Hungary did it, Romania, Bulgaria, and we are also doing it now very well. Now, the maturity of each of those locations is different, right? So if you take it from scale from 1 to 7, where at 7, it is the highest level of maturity where we are speaking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, process automation, etc., etc. So these countries where we come from as members of ABSL and founders of ABSL, I was a member of ABSL, with having a center of 1,200 people in the past. So everybody invested seriously in terms of having people and having the knowledge retained in our centers. Bosnia and Herzegovina is now on the same path. And basically, everything that in the past was low-hanging fruit and an opportunity to make a data entry type of work, make a call center type of work, and sell it to our customer service desk type of work, etc., is now becoming very difficult to maintain as well as very costly. So this shift left movement from Germany to Czech Republic, from Czech Republic, Poland, to some other locations is also now an opportunity for Bosnia and Herzegovina to thrive. We need to also keep in mind that there are other locations globally coming up as a prospective locations for doing business. So it is not only, the world is not going to end at Western Balkan, Albania, and basically us. Maghreb countries are also now coming up as a good locations to go to because they have very good internet connections, they have very good resource pools and so on. They have people speaking different languages, and we also need to be very much aware of that. The opportunity of Bosnia is to grow from these 15,000 people that Adam mentioned to about 30 to 50. That's a kind of a general range where we see Bosnia as a kind of a cap in terms of growing the business here. When it comes to the maturity, which I already mentioned, I believe that Bosnia is somehow halfway there. So the opportunity to scale still comes in the business services segment, mainly in the area of HR, finance, legal captive, for instance, works are very interesting. Supply chain management, that's a function which is now highly in demand, and everybody wants to have it, that people are paying really premium for doing that business. Now, when we were constructing the report, we are also speaking about these affairs. The first report was about positioning Bosnia and Herzegovina on the talent map, on the location map as a place to go to, because over the past decade and a half, Bosnia was mainly perceived as a location from where you can get good and qualified resources. The truth is that we will be able to do the same kind of work regardless of the location. I was the one who also left 15 years ago, but the truth is that the work that I was doing 15 years ago for the likes of IBM, I could have done it already here. Now, as much as COVID is an issue, it's a global issue, it's a pandemic, and it takes lives, and it's very costly and so on, it only accelerated things which are now naturally a kind of natural next steps. With having said that, the global momentum is now building up around no longer collocating people from one location to another, but more about having whitelisted resources who can do work in the quantity expected and the quality expected, but by having a strong governance that we've been speaking about, which can really ensure that the processes are optimized and there are no mistakes happening. Alongside of that, we also now have collaborative technologies which are very well developed, which are now pushing us to be really location agnostic and to grow our businesses at a faster pace. When we speak about the industry currently, as I said, we're really halfway there. So majority of our centers and our colleagues, partners, they're already involved in either a regular service delivery, transaction-based, or sometimes in a more productive way where certain functions are already being optimized, Lean and Six Sigma proven, and pushed towards robotics and automation. When it comes to Bosnia, that is also an opportunity where we can now really focus more towards growing our in-house talent and scaling around them by investing a little bit more time and potentially resources in building up really an expert type of resources and competencies in our own centers. Speaking about our collaborators and respondents, so nearly 20 companies have already stated that they are having plans towards pushing the knowledge transfer, as well as the service growth for the next year. I'll be very eager to see what is going to happen in that respect, given that also the size of our industry is now revolving in between 80 to 100 million euro per annum. It's a great opportunity to work together. It's a great opportunity to collaborate. What we can also do as ABSL, as well as the members, we can now even better promote Bosnia as a location to come to, where we can show the competencies we have available in our own centers. We know how to manage the demand, we know how to manage customers, and I believe that in the next 2 years that the segment can grow easily by the 20%. When you now go through the rest of the report, we've also touched a little bit upon the HR topics, so the human resources, the human capital pool, where we pictured out the standard, I would say, topics that most of the investors are interested in. So when it comes to the labor arbitration, when it comes to the cost, we are very competitive, I can tell you that. It is expected that the costs are going to change next year towards, basically they will be going up, but also the value of the market is going up, which is very good and giving us opportunity to thrive in that respect. Nonetheless, in the last chapter of the report that you will see, we have also prepared the yellow pages where you can see the companies in this sector with basically a major or the main outline of what they do, what the services that they deliver to what geographies, and that's an opportunity where also the rest of you who are not yet at least members of ABSL can participate in the next year report. From my side, this is all. I would love to have some questions from your end if you would like to know anything particular about the Bosnian industry or overall business services segment. I'm here open for your questions. Anyone? Oh, thank you.
I don't know if the audience prepared some questions, but I surely did. Tarik, I'd kindly like to ask you to sit down and chat a little bit more about the report. I think everyone in the audience is interested. So am I, working for ABSL. Why do we do the report? What is so important about that document? Because we surely know in the industry there are a lot of documents being published on a yearly and monthly, even weekly basis. What is different with the ABSL annual country report?
It's a good question. Thank you very much for that. So when it comes to the ABSL report, so the first thing is that we are now a member of a great organization where Bosnia and Herzegovina got actually the mandate to scale the entire Western Balkans. And we want to use that, we want to harness that, because equally, for instance, if you look at the Visegrad Group countries, Czech Republic is the flagship of the industry, followed by the Poland or the other way around. I mean, that's a never-ending story. The ABSL methodology in terms of structuring data is very unique, and it's very well accepted by the investors. So the same language that we speak in this report is the same language which is used in Czech Republic and every other location. So typically, when it comes to the persona, so who's actually reading this report? For you, here, it may be good to understand what your competitors are doing, what your network is doing, and you can use it in whatever way you would like. But on the other side, we wanted to make sure that other personas, decision makers who can move the business, who can make an impact, who can grow our industry, that they understand what we speak about. Because sometimes the language used in Bosnia and Herzegovina is so complicated that people get themselves confused. I can tell you an example. So the Czech Labor Law, it is a very small booklet, probably like 6-7 pages, and I know it by heart. In Bosnia, I don't know where to start. And that's actually what we are doing here, right? So we are standardizing the message, which is equal in Romania, Czech Republic, Poland, Hungary, so that it reaches the people who can make a difference, and it reaches the people who would be interested to come here. So demand-wise, just by issuing the first report, we had several companies coming here with the potential to open up nearly about 1,000 jobs.
I think the audience is interested. What profile were these companies? From where are they coming from? What are their objectives, goals, while asking questions about the market here?
Sure. So there are 3 tiers. Well, the companies, they are segregated in 3 groups. So we have the top 4. Some representatives are already here. Then we have a medium-sized companies and the small businesses. The small businesses are always looking for an opportunity where to get the resources from and how to get the cheap labor. They are not the ones who are not coming to us. However, mid-sized companies with, let's say, 5,000 to 15,000 people are regularly knocking on the door and asking, can we get qualified resources? What is the labor arbitration like? What would it cost me to have let's say, a call center operator from, let's say, one of your partners here, or how do we go and hire? So what do we do there? So the companies that were coming to us, so one in particular is in recruitment, robotics, etc. Industry, they have 9,000 people already and looking to stage a center with 200 people, right? And similar companies like that. So all of them are interested mainly in 3 things. Where do I get people? What do they cost me? Where do I get a space? What does it cost me? Are there any incentives available for me to start a business? They're not necessarily, the investors are not necessarily looking for money to come here. They're looking for stability. They want to make sure that if, let's say, the cost of the resource of a junior is 15,000 euro, that it stays like that for 2-3 years, and that there are no shocks. So this is what we actually give them, and this is the message that we send them. Also, with your participation here, we are saying that that when it comes to Microsoft, we have somebody who can help with the Microsoft. When it comes to the ERP, we have somebody with ERP who can also help you thrive. When it comes to legal finance, we also have somebody who can really chip in there and so on. And we are, as Adam said, we are catalysts. We are sending the right message to people to understand it in the way they would like to understand it, and based on that, make a decision.
Do you think that audiences understand who read the report, the challenges we're facing? Because the editions of the report are not focusing, I would say very gladly, on politics when it comes to the political system of our country, but rather on success stories. Are we even aware of the amount of successful companies that are employing so many people? And what were the reactions? You talked to a lot of foreign investors. How do they react when they hear, I don't know, for a company from Banja Luka or Mostar, having more than 150 people employed and being a very successful company culture itself?
I would divide it in two parts. So one, when it comes to the politics, of course, politics can always do much more, right? So in all these well-developed countries, politics have indeed played very significant role in attracting those businesses, making sure that the legal framework is optimized, it's proper for those companies to thrive. For instance, in my past, without now mentioning a company name, I've given a commitment that I'm going to grow business center to, let's say, 200 people, and that the state will support. Eventually, I ended up after 5 years having 800 people. But the money and the investment that state contributed with is only a very small part in the overall picture. So that's how it works. So on the other side, when it comes to the members, some are very straightforward, very open, and they like to show what they do and so on. Some others are still a little bit shy. And I do understand that, because I mean, what we are now doing with ABSL in Bosnia, it's something new, and people need to simply also build the confidence in what we are going to do and how we are going to help them. So, which is okay. It will eventually come. It will take about 3-4 years until we cover the entire sector. That's really okay. But I believe that the key message here is that that our interests are, as ABSL members and leaders and so on, is just to promote the business, is just to be really catalysts and enablers for more businesses to come. We can answer some questions in a way that investors understand. To give you an example, right? So this one company which came here in September, they were interested in opening up a center with a couple of hundred people in Federation of Bosnia, and they were asking like one stakeholder, so what is the political system like? So who do we speak to about incentives or financial whatever and so on? And the stakeholder started explaining that we actually have 5 layers of political layers, and everybody, when we need to address them all, but then they realize that there are very little synergies in between those 5 layers, and everything is so lengthy. So we are not actually resolving those problems. There are companies who can make sure that those things happen, and the investors, they love to hear these stories. So at the end of the day, if somebody is really interested in coming here, they will not come because the state is going to support, although the state can support and must and should. They will come here because they will have great people, they will have a stability in the resource pool, they will have a very good office space, and they will have overall stability in doing business over here. That's the only thing that investors want.
Great. The other question that is actually very interesting, and I heard it actually a lot from people reading our report, from where do we gather data and how do we prove its validity? You're the project manager, and of course, you know the procedure. I know it too, but I think the audience is interested because actually last year and this year, we offer a unique style of presenting data, and unique data indeed when it comes to relevance, objectiveness, and numbers, of course, which are not framed, but real numbers. And I think that fact that real numbers are actually positive and impressive is the fact that triggers them. So please, could you explain it and tell more?
Yes, thank you. That's also a great question. So maybe if we go 1 year back, so what we did last year, we went to our ABSL HQ, so to say, and we asked them what would be the best way to go to position Bosnia on the map. So they were really great, and they told us what things actually we should avoid and how to make sure that the report is going to be done properly and that the key message goes out. So we did 2 things there. So first, we made a ton of interviews with the stakeholders. We also used an editor-in-chief from Ernst & Young, and that wonderful lady, she really helped us do it with the proper English and to push out the key message, but we did not play too much with the numbers. So the numbers were quite generic. We for the last year's report, we took them from the statistical office and also talking to our colleagues and network. And this is the message. I mean, the overall message in that sense was pushed out to the market. So this year we went one step ahead. So instead of just doing the regular stories, although we have 12 or 13, I believe, wonderful success stories, optimized properly with a key message really pushed out. Then we also sent a questionnaire with about 50 main questions about the state of the industry, about the work that the companies are doing, about basically the forecast for the next year, about some other questions like, how Brexit is, for instance, influencing your business, etc. So we collected all those data, and those data, they represent about 1/4, maybe 1/3 of the overall sector. And then based on that, we were crunching the numbers and pushing out the report. So what you see there, you can compare it only with what we have actually received. I don't think that any other report that is really out there would differ very much, but the numbers that we have are really coming from colleagues, members from the industry, and I'm very happy and thankful for the participation of everybody.
Thank you, Tarik. Last year's edition of the report was a major success, and I know that we all at the organization, including members and friends and partners, are really proud of the impact it had, because I think we weren't aware about the thing that we're going to do. So was it hard to keep in line with last year's success, and what is different this year? Because I got feedbacks not only from member companies, but from readers, that there is nothing more to be said about the industry here.
Well, I think that we need to look at it from a bit broader perspective. So it is about who reads this report, right? I can now tell you that, let's say the Minister of Trade of Czech Republic has a copy of your report on the table. And that our ambassador in Czech Republic, she was great and really took a major step towards speaking about this industry amongst everything else. So that's something that really generates value. So, and then when you have an opportunity to push your message to somebody as high as that, I'm sure that you will have much more to say. Of course, I mean, when it comes to Bosnia and when it comes to the Balkan, I mean, we do have a different mentality and different understanding of what needs to be said and how it needs to be said and so on and so on. And I don't think that it's going to be a major challenge, but for the next year, we are also going to send a proper guideline as to what kind of content we would like to collect, what kind of essays we want to mention. And it's not only about the companies, but it's also about the wonderful people that we have in these countries, about the superstars of ours. I mean, people who are, the other day they went to elementary school, now they're students, and now they are something really great. That's a key message that we want to push out. Honestly, not too many investors, they want to listen about the issues in the political environment and what Bosnia can do or not do. I mean, the truth is that this business is so lucrative. It is wonderful. You don't need to sell your family silver to bring the business in here. All you need to have is space, qualified people, and treat them well. Equally, if you don't do it, the same people can walk out and go somewhere else. So it's a proper balance of what companies can do, what investors want to see, and for sure, ABSL can also chip in there and help you guys out.
Well spoken, I must say. So coming from Czech Republic, actually, you left the country a few years ago, started a whole new life, and said that you joined ABSL also in the Czech Republic, cooperated. What triggers, I think, is what differs and where are the similarities between Czech Republic and Bosnia and Herzegovina when it comes to BPO and, of course, lifestyle, because your story is one of those impressive ones, having everything at one place but changing, then coming back. What was the reason? What's the story behind?
Well, it's very simple. So at the time when my wife and I, we were considering to change, it was so 16 years ago or something like that. We were looking for something totally different compared to the type of work which we did in Sarajevo and some other places. And the Czech Republic became an opportunity which we accepted, and it was IBM as a first employer there. We went to Brno, and we didn't know really much about the technology, but we did have definitely a drive to learn something new and to be in an environment we can also grow and thrive. And IBM was the beginning of that for about 1.5 years, and it was not challenging at all. The mentality also of Czech people is a little bit different than ours, where, for instance, you can ask as many times the same question and they will be very happy to answer as many times as necessary until really you understand. While over here, it's not necessarily something like that, which is really great. The mistakes are also welcome because there is also a way how to mitigate those mistakes and those risks. And that's something which is really great and very positive. So we were thinking about coming back 1.5 years later, but then another opportunity came up because the market is so competitive, so big, and many companies are really coming. And then we took it, we went to Prague, and we really, well, temporarily. And although kids are now going to school, they're still temporarily there, and we really love it. So the similarities in terms of Bosnia and Czech Republic, I believe that although Adnan said 2015 is the year you would like to compare us with Poland, I would say that when it comes to the Czech Republic, we are maybe 2010, 2011, because we are still very much speaking about staff augmentation. We are still very much speaking about leasing skills and so on. While now Prague is, and actually the industry over there is about selling the services. So if we follow those best practices, which are not, again, difficult, it's about really having people, having stability in the organization. Don't be afraid to invest. Don't be afraid to spend the money by sending people, although many companies are really doing that. The business is going to come, you will have an opportunity to thrive. So in that sense, we are very much alike. And last but not least, I believe that somehow majority of our people think about, when they think about really changing the country, that DACH region is a place to go to. I don't think it's like that. I mean, we experienced Czech Republic in a way where we are so happy there that the GDP is wonderful. Opportunities to invest, to buy, to sell, to live are wonderful. Culture-wise, very similar to us. And it's simply a place I can really recommend to anyone to visit or to build business synergies. What else is also there? There is a wonderful organization now we are collaborating with, and it's called The Innovation. It's a commercial agency, and they are actually also bringing sponsors, investors to the overall Western Balkan countries. They are interested also in coming to Bosnia. And when you tell them wonderful stories like about Karel Pařík, the guy from Czech Republic who built half of Sarajevo, about the history of Czechs in Bosnia and Herzegovina, like when 1/3 of Banja Luka were actually Czechs. Those are the things which are forgotten, but now that you mention them, it also brings up the old flair. So I think we should be working on that as much as we can.
And what makes you driven to work within the BPO industry here, within the people? What is the thing that impresses you the most? And when it comes to situations when you say, I'm gonna leave it all, what brings you back?
I'm never going to leave it. I mean, that's at least I had so many opportunities in my life to try many different things, from being in peacekeeping operations, different courts, and doing different type of jobs in development organizations, and all of that is okay. But what BPO does, it gives you a unique opportunity that when you finish your day and you turn back, you can see what you've done. That's really great. Secondly, it gives you an opportunity to be creative. It's not boring. I mean, of course, if you want to do a boring job, I mean, nobody is going to stop you. But if there is a way how you can improve your own job, that's also a value add, and you can sell that, right?
Of course.
So that's what's really wonderful and great about it. And it's also very unpredictable. I mean, the truth is that the sector, the industry is going to grow. It will continue growing for the next 4 or 5 years. Then we will have to switch from the way how we do business today onto how do we robotize and automate, etc. So it's always interesting.
Thank you, Tarik. I will use the opportunity, since you're on stage, to together with you, thank to all our contributors, and I really would use the opportunity to list them all. The strategic partners of our organization are, of course, the Storsen Digital, where you are the CEO, SIS Company, M Plus Group, DDC, JS Guru, Zendev, Go Cloud Group, ODM Collectors, Deloitte, Zendev, and many more. And thank you for this interesting talk. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you all. Looking forward to seeing you next year as well.
We have one question, Tarik. Sorry, it's not coming from me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nejma. I have one question when it comes to this report you wrote. You wrote it in 2020 after the COVID. And I'm always like interested in the risks when it comes to job, schooling, education, everything. So I want to ask you, were you aware of the risk when it comes to that report, writing such a like amazing report? And when you are like standing in this point of view, and when you go back and look back, what would you say that was like the biggest risk while writing that report that you like, I don't know, just I will say handle it? What was like the main, like the biggest, not problem, just let's say risk when it comes to writing such reports, because it's not like easy thing and you need like a lot of data, statistics and stuff like that. And what was like your, from this point of view, when you go back? Thank you.
Sure, thank you very much. It's a great question. So I would divide it in two parts. One about security, jobs and education, and then the other one about making the report itself. So last year was very problematic, and even for my own business. So the Q1 was good. We made enough business there to survive for the whole year, but it was really a stretch. And if it would continue like that, it would be really a problem. But it will not be only Bosnian problem or my company problem. It would be global problem. The beginning of this year, February and March, that was the time when business started kind of awakening. And I can tell you that compared to the last year, our pipeline grew 75 times, which is really great. And so the customers are knocking on the door and they are asking for different skills and so on. And the truth is that most of the demand cannot be simply handled by limited resources we have. So overall, there's a shortfall, there's a shortage of people everywhere you go. In Czech Republic, in Poland, in everywhere, in Serbia. And currently there is also an element of inflation that's happening on the market. So if you were, as I also have a business in Serbia, if you were expecting that you would save 40%, which is a minimum, it's a baseline to move business from one location to another and to use Bosnia or Belgrade, I mean, this is no longer happening because qualified resources, they nearly cost the same amount of money in Belgrade, Sarajevo, Zagreb, or somewhere else. So really the differences are very little. So overall, when it comes to the industry, as I said, it's going to continue thriving for the next 3-4 years for sure. And in that sense, job security, I don't think it's really a problem. What would be an issue is that if you don't do anything about your own careers, because what you are doing right now, it may change, but it may substantially change in a couple of years from now. To give you an example, and not relevant to Bosnian market, but if we take, let's say, some manufacturing organizations, one in particular, without mentioning the name, they are talking about modernization of the finance, where certain transactional roles which are currently done by the employees is going to be handled by the robots. And a lot of money is already invested in that. So in about 4 or 5 years, general ledger may not exist as we know it today, at least in the Czech Republic. So I would be, as an employee, I would be on the lookout on those things. I would really follow all trends when it comes to IT, when it comes to the business services, and I would stick with that. I would definitely stay with that. The other risk is that I mean, the overall life cycle of nearshoring, outsourcing, it's on an average 8 to 10 years. And as I already mentioned some minutes ago, that the new markets are coming up. So there is a risk that either the business will not come to Bosnia or that it may just migrate to even cheaper resources. As Anand was speaking about the Philippines, in Philippines you can buy a resource for 5,000 euros a year, which is only a fraction of what we pay here. So job-wise today, wouldn't be worried. Education, I would definitely invest as an employee and as an employer, and I would leave it at that. Now, when it comes to the report, of course, I mean, it is a challenge. It is a project, and I'm not a journalist or anything like that. I'm good at project management. So the first part writing about it was really to get a buy-in from the stakeholders that the key message we are sending out is something that we should really do. And it has taken a lot of time, effort, pressure. Adi did also great work over there. Thank you, Adi. And it was a success. This time, it was also a challenge, and it will always be a challenge, because we had very little time to collect all the data. And we will be also continue editing this edition before it's pushed out. So just the time and the key message that we need to send out is something that takes time. I mean, I cannot expect that all stakeholders are going to respond to emails we are sending out or calls within 1 week, but that will take time. Another thing is the consistency of data. So to collect the data, it has also taken about 2 months, roughly. If that could have been better, of course. But next year, for the next year report, we are going to start with the planning already in December, and we'll be collecting the data throughout the whole year. So next November, when the third edition is pushed out, that we have even more granular information about the industry. So challenge is not a challenge, but it is just a way this type of work is done. I hope I answered your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tarik.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So, Tarik, how do you see the demand and interest for Bosnia and Herzegovina's market in terms of business services in comparison with the region or with the larger region of the Southeastern and Central Europe? And can you assume reasons or trends that you observe?
So there are many elements which are driving the demand, right? So one is the actual need of the industry, of the demand owners, so companies who are buying those services. Then the second type of demand is the demand which is coming from the service providers, right? And this is what we have to balance with. So the demand owners, some of them are already here, some of those are already being serviced. And they are doing that because they are looking for an alternative in terms of exploring other resource pools and having actually more talent available. So that's one. And the second one is the service providers. So for instance, before COVID came in, the average attrition in the industry, attrition level was about 30 to 40%. So if you have, let's say, 100,000 people in your business, in your industry, it means that about 30,000 to 40,000 people are changing jobs every year. That's a really significant amount of people and a significant amount of costs. So of course now COVID, it did slow down the attrition, meaning people leaving the company to about 5 to 7%. Nonetheless, the business is growing and still more people are needed. Now, usually the service providers would expect that people are moving from one country to another, but nowadays it's no longer a prerequisite. So having a larger resource pool available in Bosnia definitely is going to be explored. What other countries do within the region, Balkan region, so Serbia mainly, Macedonia, they have already adopted some other rules of engagement. They're already very much out on the market, and they're using the chambers of commerce to promote this industry. We are just about to start doing that. So they have more people in the industry, but we are going to definitely catch up with that. So that would be, that's how I think that the demand is going to knock on Bosnia's door. What was the other question, Ali?
Thank you, Tarik. And we have time for just another one question before I ask you. Thank you, Selma, for asking it. The next question comes from Mirza. It says, how is ABSL going to attract more people to enter and remain within the labor market?
So when it comes to the labor market, we have two options. One is to produce our own resources. So speaking with the universities, with the high schools, oftentimes to work in the business services segment, you don't need to have a university degree. You don't need to have that level diploma, but people need to speak languages. And that's what we need to harness. So I would really also use the opportunity to send the message across the educational board to really invest more time and energy in teaching people to speak English and other languages. So that is a unique value. Secondly, when it comes to the shortfall of resources, obviously in the IT business, there is a deficit of those resources everywhere we go. I think that the cross-border cooperation is something we can and we should use. So working with countries in the vicinity, Serbia, Kosovo, Macedonia, whatever, and ensuring that we can really leverage those pools. Alternatively, as the very last solution, I don't know how popular, but I think that immigration towards Bosnia, the skilled migration, is something we should really look into, because Czech Republic did it. They managed to bring about 600,000 foreign workers. That's about 6% of the population. And they're living over there. They are making, doing their business, making revenues for the state, paying taxes, and that will be a way to go as well. I hope it answered your question.
Thank you, Tarik.
Welcome. Thank you all.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're